Hi, I am Justin Paperny with White Collar Advice, and I'm coming to you today from my living room. And the reason I'm coming to you today from my living room is not to necessarily show you my living room, but because my daughter Alyssa has taken over my home office to do schoolwork. Though the last time she said it was schoolwork, I went in, she was watching Paw Patrol on YouTube. So she threw me out of the office, she has some schoolwork to do. I've got to get this video done today, so I'm gonna do it from the living room. When I'm filming this video, I literally wrote some notes down following I had a lengthy corporate lecture today. It was a couple of hour lecture, and sometimes the best part of the lecture is the question and answer. Frankly, you know the lecture's gone well if there's a lot of questions. And as you would imagine, a lot of the questions have to do with federal prison. What was it like? And someone in the audience via Zoom said, well, what are some crazy and strange things about federal prison? I said, great questions, let me answer them. And as I was answering them, I was writing them down on this yellow notepad, and I said at the end, I'm gonna do a YouTube video this afternoon, and here I am, fulfilling that obligation. So in this video, I'm going to address 12 facts, surprising facts I learned upon my surrender to federal prison. And I hope you find value in it. Of course, if you've been to prison, if you're in prison right now, watching this on an iPhone, you should get rid of the iPhone. But when you come home and you're on my YouTube channel, tell me where I went wrong. Tell me some facts that surprised you. So here we go. Number one thing that surprised me after I went to prison. I was surprised at how many people were successfully running a business. Now, to be clear, I know a lot of people say you can't run a business in prison. I understand it. Just because someone says something to you doesn't mean it's true. Just because someone says they can help you doesn't mean they can. You have to verify and do due diligence. There is a proper way to understand Bureau of Prison's policy that will enable you to successfully run a business. So upon my surrender, I was stunned at how many people were successfully able to run a business. And true to form, over the last 12 years, our team has helped myriad clients run businesses, including some that are now billion-dollar businesses. Totally cool. And to prove how you can successfully run a business from prison, here's the shameless plug, 2 minutes into the video for Lessons from Prison. I began building my business with my daily blog and then book from prison 12 years ago. You can absolutely build a business from prison. It was a great fact I learned upon my surrender. Number two, drug issues. What's one of the first things you want to do when you get into federal prison? You want to get out. That's what happens. You want out as quickly as you get in. So when I surrendered to prison, I was surprised at how quickly I was surprised at people who were getting like this year off. I'm like, what do you mean you got a year out of your prison term? Like, that's absurd. How did you get a year off? I want a year off. And what I learned was, it doesn't matter if you sleep and complain all day or write a book and blog all day, and if you're productive, at least it doesn't matter with respect to administrators. I want you to be productive and work and have a great record, so it'll help you when you come home. But what surprised me was, if you have a drug issue and you disclose it properly, it can help you get access into the only early release program that exists. And it was very frustrating for a number of people in prison who were serving 4 and 5 year sentences, who didn't prepare for their probation report or sentencing, who wanted that early release component and were unable to get it and served an extra year longer. So it was fascinating to me that by disclosing a drug issue or drinking issue, you can get out of jail earlier. Number three, long-term prisoners. This was a very good discussion point today on this corporate lecture, because people are like, oh, what is the white-collar prison like? And you're a white-collar felon, and it's a country club. Did you golf? Did you play tennis? Did you swim? There's this perception of white-collar country clubs. It's hilarious. And when this came up, I said, well, I kind of thought that too. That's where I thought I was going. And then upon my surrender to prison, I told them, and I told you, I learned how people have been in prison for 10, 20, 30 years. The first day, as I shamelessly plug Lessons from Prison again, and as I wrote in the book, I was walking the track with my friend David. And we're walking the track, and he's like, that guy's been in jail for 22 years. I'm like, that's insane. And he was talking about Michael Santos, my now business partner. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, that guy's been down 17 years. I'm like, down 17 years? We're in a camp, bud. 10 years or less to the door, non-violent, minimum security. You're wrong. And he's like, dude, you've been here 9 seconds. I've been here like 29 months. I'm telling you, people have been here. People here have been in prison for 10, 20, 30 years. So it was very surprising to me upon my surrender to prison to learn this fact about how people have been in for so long. And that's a good point for all of you who are going in. Understand your environment. Recognize that long-term prisoners have a perception of you, and you should understand that environment before you seek to exploit it, right? You're stepping into an environment where you've been there for 3 seconds and people have been there 3 months, or as I learned that first day, shockingly, 30 years. Keep that in mind. Okay, rolling along here. Number 4. Some hustling is allowed, some is not. So certainly I have filmed videos on the prison hustle, and certainly there are YouTube channels that I should subscribe to and watch, but I don't, because I'm really only on YouTube to post my stuff and prison professor stuff and a lot of golf stuff. Okay, so I don't watch those other channels, but I presume they get extensively into the prison hustle and all the crazy stuff. My point for this video, or this part of the video, a surprising fact upon my surrender to prison, was how staff essentially allows some hustling, but some stuff is absolutely not allowed. As an example, should always do your job. Do not be so lazy you cannot do your job. Do your job. You get caught paying someone to do your job, one, you're lazy, you can't contribute to the community of felons, and that's going to be off-putting to staff. That's a disciplinary infraction. Not allowed. Perhaps having someone do your laundry and cooking, tacitly encouraged. So again, you've got to exercise your own judgment and make your own decisions, but I'd encourage you, or something I learned upon my surrender, some hustling was allowed, some absolutely was not. Number 5, actually, one second. I got a note from my marketing team. They've given me some advice that they'd like me to read into my videos. Hold on. Justin, please tell people to subscribe. Okay, can you read it? I think it's obvious if you're finding value in these videos that you'll subscribe, but apparently I'm supposed to say something to you. Hold on, let me read it one more time. Justin, please tell people to subscribe. So if you're finding value, please subscribe to the channel. I fulfilled my obligation to the marketing department. Okay, number 5, trust placed on some prisoners. I was pretty shocked upon my surrender to prison at how much responsibility was given to my fellow prisoners. And some guys are like the town driver, taking people to and from the airport. I mean, that's a pretty big responsibility. You could literally drive off and never come back. Other prisoners' commissary is a high responsibility job. So I was pleasantly surprised and very impressed with the responsibility that was given to so many of my fellow prisoners. I didn't really come to expect that. Number 6, what did I write here? Big network locked up. Oh, so this came up a lot today in this corporate lecture that I gave. It went well. We had to shut down the Q&A at the end. It lasted almost 3 hours. What did I write? Big network locked up. People were asking about how did I blog from prison and what was that experience like? And there wasn't even email then. When I surrendered to prison, I expected to learn Spanish. I didn't. I expected to run a lot. I did. Get in better shape. I did. I went in a big fat bloated slob, so I used my time to exercise quite a bit. But I didn't think there's anything else I could do from there because I was locked up. Then meeting Michael Santos, and I followed his path and creating and documenting it. I grew my network extensively. That was like so wonderful to me. It was fantastic, and I want all of you to learn from that. I know for sure now my daughter is not doing her assignment because I actually hear Paw Patrol, but we're going to get there in about 5 or 6 minutes, okay? So that is a great thing for all of you. You can grow and build this network as I did. I don't know where my iPhone is. Oh, I'm recording with it right now. I didn't even have email in prison. You will. Use it effectively to write. Use a little notepad like this, good old snail mail. Apologize for the terrible handwriting. I didn't know that when I went to prison. It is a wonderful fact that you should create this network you should write. I didn't expect that to be the case. Number 8, or number 7, I should say, the jealousy of staff. You know, there are pockets of staff. I didn't meet any of them who are nice, but I'm sure there are pockets in prisons across the country who have an interest in your future and your success. Again, if you know them, great. I didn't meet them. I found many of them could frankly be jealous and be off-put by how hard you're working. Frankly, by the fact that you get to leave there someday. Okay, there was a very rude and mean prison guard who gave a hard time to my mother from Truckee, California. And I remember having empathy for him because I got to leave after 18 months and he was essentially there for life. But I was surprised by this fact that staff can be vindictive, petty, take pleasure in the pain of others, purposely make it difficult on prisoners. And I've learned the less you show that you care, the less you show that you need them, frankly, the better it works out for you. So don't be in their office begging for halfway house time. Don't be in their office begging to get an extra phone call or commissary. Have some dignity, show some strength. The more you act like you need something, the less you are, the less you're going to get it. But that was a surprising fact to me at the way that staff responded to some prisoners. Frankly, I found many of them to be jealous of the fact that we get to leave and they don't. Okay, number 8, visitation. I visited a lot in prison. I planned to visit. I visited every Friday or every other Friday. Before I went in, I expected I would love visitation, and most of the time I did. Okay, but sometimes I was so immersed in my prison routine, I just wanted to stay in that routine. And sometimes while I was visiting, sometimes I felt like it was a little much. Like I didn't need to do every Friday. I was so grateful that my friends and family came. So that was a surprising fact to me. I presumed that I would always want to visit, though it wasn't always the case. Another fact You can get bad news in visitation. That's something that came up every now and again, where, think about it, you're with someone for 7-8 hours a day, you have limited phone minutes, email costs money, good old snail mail takes time. Sometimes you say, I'm just gonna wait for a visit. I was surprised at how many of my fellow prisoners loathed visits because it was a place to get some bad news. And that was something I didn't consider, and that was an unfortunate fact I learned upon my surrender to prison. Moving on. Let's see, visitation down, time alone. Okay, I'm an introvert. Are you an introvert, an extrovert? I don't know you, leave a comment. Because I'm an introvert, I was able to spend a lot of time alone. That was a wonderful fact. Before I went to prison, I presume because I'm in this community of felons with more than 500 people that I'm gonna be around people all day, every day. I would have no privacy, which for introverts isn't the best. I like my own company. Thankfully, upon my surrender, in part by waking early, so I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning, I'd have several hours alone to work while the dorm was sleeping. But even then, as the day got going, I found a lot of privacy in the library, behind the racquetball court. When people hear racquetball, that's why they say it's a country club. So behind a court at Taft Camp, there was this bench underneath a tree, and there was a lot of shade, and I would have privacy every afternoon for hours. It was wonderful. That was a surprising fact to me, and something I did not expect when I surrendered to prison, how much time I would actually have alone. Who would think that? You're around so many guys. Okay, we're wrapping up here. Just a couple of minutes left. Okay, here we go. Gratitude. I don't know why this is number 10. It's as important as anything. In my 20s, before I went to prison, I was envious and jealous of those that had more. Terrible traits to have. It's just awful. I had so much to begin with, though I yearned and coveted more. Awful. And then in prison, through a lot of introspection and thinking and examining my own life, I came to feel a great deal of gratitude for everything that remained, my health, my family, my ability to work early and try to create and build a better life, be competitive, right? I have no doubt being a baseball player drove me to prove people wrong. Till this day, I still try to do that. But I found a great deal of gratitude in prison, and I didn't expect that before I surrendered. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I expected to go to prison, learn Spanish, exercise, watch TV, and that was it. I didn't expect to have this philosophical awakening. So for me, that was a wonderful part of the prison term and something I didn't expect. Moving on, haters going to hates. So we have 2 left here. So as I wrote in Lessons from Prison, I open up a chapter by saying misery loves company. In federal prison, you'd think there's almost a brotherhood of people wanting you to be successful and to work together and to support your efforts. And I noticed pretty quickly in prison, cliques form. I mean, I suppose no different than society. And with cliques forming, it's very easy to be influenced by others. And not everyone may have the best motives. And there's a frequent phrase, some prison vernacular that says 6 months to the house. In other words, I'll begin preparing when I have 6 months to the halfway house. And of course, by then, habits have formed. It's too late to get started. So you have to be aware, and something that was an uncomfortable truth to life in federal prison, how many fellow prisoners and staff sought to hold down prisoners who had big plans or who were working or creating. And oftentimes a prisoner who was working would get that negative feedback and they would stop. So I was surprised at how much haters would actually hate. Unfortunately for me, being an introvert, but also the people who I was around were very positive and uplifting, that was never a problem for me. I mean, the last thing that you should care about is what people think about you in federal prison. You should be focused on your family, recognizing this experience is harder on them. And if you can do that, you'll deal with some inevitable criticism, people thinking you're weird, why are you waking so early, why are you working so hard, nobody cares, why are you writing about ethics and philosophy, you're a convicted felon. I heard it all, I heard it to this day, though I did give a 2-hour ethics lecture earlier today to a Fortune 500 company, so clearly I was on the right track, but I would not be dissuaded by others who told me that I wouldn't. Okay, last and final one, and frankly the least important. I think this is 11 or 12, whatever. Someone asked me today, how good is the food in federal prison? It is so unimportant, but I'm going to touch on it here. It is a fact. I was stunned at how terrific the meals were in federal prison. I've had the privilege of going to Europe and traveling the country, the world, having some phenomenal meals. I was stunned at the incredible meals that I had on the inside of a federal prison. Certainly something that I didn't expect. So there we go, 11 or 12 facts, surprising facts upon my surrender to federal prison. Again, if I missed something, and I'm sure I did, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And that's all I have for today. Now I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to go into the other room, my home office, to ensure that my daughter is actually doing her work in lieu of watching instead of watching Paw Patrol. And I look forward to returning next week from my home office instead of my living room to do this video. One more thing, hold on, don't go anywhere. Please, Justin, please tell people to subscribe. If you find value in the video per my marketing team, please subscribe so I can continue to provide you value. Be well, back soon. Bye-bye.